On this vote, the yeas are 54, the nays are 46. Under the previous order requiring 60 votes for the adoption of this amendment, the amendment is not agreed to. The order in the Senate.
Yesterday we saw a mass failure of leadership in the United States Senate, a kind of failure of leadership that has become all too familiar. The body failed to pass a moderate piece of gun control legislation that is supported by 80 to 90% of the American people, according to polls. Expanded background checks on gun purchases. Why did they do this? It looked like the main reason was fear. Fear of challenges from the right among both Republicans and Democrats. Not only did it really look as if the Senate was acting mostly from fear, but it acted in its typically very cowardly way of doing so with the threat of a filibuster. The way the Senate has come to work is that a minority rules. You have to have 60 votes for something before it can pass. An up and down vote isn't even allowed, so people hide behind this threat of a filibuster. A real filibuster barely even happens. Instead, they say there will be a filibuster, and because of that, even a measure like this, in which only 45 of the 100 senators voted against it, it can't pass because it's held up, just as the approvals of so many judges to judgeships are held up without any particular reason, but just because the Senate refuses to vote on them. The Senate has built in a kind of gridlock that seems to come out of fears of challenges, fears of not kowtowing to one end or the other of the political spectrum. But also the fear seems to come out of the way Congress has become so tied up in lobbyists and lobbying power and the need for re-election. Every member of Congress has to raise so much money to be reelected now, and so much of that money comes from lobbyists that it's very hard to be independent in a way we would like to think of Congress people as being. All of this leads to a kind of a gridlock and to the defeat of measures that great majorities of Americans support, such as we saw yesterday. And I think it just shows a real broad lack of leadership across the spectrum in the Senate, in the hallowed United States Capitol.